So I'm sitting sort of out the park or sitting area out front of, I think it's where they do imaging studies. It's part of Sydney University, like right next to the nursing school. But they've got this really lovely, park with seating, and it's very lush and tranquil. And there's also Wi-Fi. Well, for me, because I'm University of Sydney staff member. I like to come here sometimes just to take a break and think, especially when I'm trying to get rid of that feeling of suffocation from the silences of the person that I seem to dwell in Antarctica with, emotionally adrift. There's actually a few mosses in this park, so I might not stay for very long. But needless to say, I've studied a short story, and it's called Mirage. I'm going to read a little bit. Remember, this is just the opener, okay? Honestly, it could very likely change, and the scandals might be introduced earlier to add bite and tension. But basically, if I trace things out a little bit, you'll see where I'm headed. So it's about a woman called Myra who's obsessed with a female leader, even through all the scandals and disappointments, assassination attempts, and the constant questioning of her daughter. The other idea is for a short story called Antarctica, about a couple stranded in a timeless zone. Yes, Antarctica has no time zones, yet it's the largest continent. They are seemingly obsessed with just stocking up on supplies and staying separate. The third story is more of a thriller, true crime. There's no title as yet. But if I had to think about, the last two stories. Have you ever read that short story, Masterly, by Ernest Hemingway, that's called The End of Something? Okay. There's a whole lake scene, and I want something like that, but more ice floes with Antarctica. And that precision. Oh, listen to those birdies. And then with the thriller true crime, I'm thinking of Adolfo Bioy Casares, the Argentine writer, friend of Borges, who wrote a short story called Cavar un Fosso, Dig a Grave. But rather than just be a template or a copy of that short story, my ambition here is to maybe also have a couple involved, like in To Dig a Grave. A lot of duplicity, but more about the identity of one of them. I also think about films like Harry's Here to Help. I think about Hitchcock. We'll see what shape it takes. But anyway, on to Mirage. So, this is just the opener, and as I said, the scandals, the assassination attempts, all the things that she has to weather, and lots of mozzies, and the mosquitoes dead. No, the PM's demise will actually be mirrored with the mother's decline. And the key here is mirrors. Mirage. Myra often said, with tightness, men who grow beards have something to hide. Ashgar, being the youngest, but she was a tomboy and preferred Ashley, wondered why she was so insistent, holding forth like this, all over a pine-panelled kitchen bench in suburban Perth. She had a point, but where was it going? Who knew? It was a pronouncement, a limit. In contrast, for Benazir Bhutto, she had nothing but praise. Benazir surely had nothing to hide, and certainly no beard. Myra, who considered herself a Christian woman, chose her pantheon with scrutiny. Benazir, Muslim, Yes, but glamorous. A woman of power, in power, of a nation. Ash asked quizzically why Myra always spoke of Bernicia. As if she were a neighbour. No, that was below Myra. The director of a charitable institution, complete with her entourage, her Western education, her protected skin. Thinking in this way, it occurred to her that her mother was, in fact, looking for a mirror, or at least thought she was. Yet what if Myra looked in the mirror? Ash knew what her sisters would say, smirking. Mum, no amount of oil of Yulan or Pond's cream is going to deliver you from your moustache. Why don't you wax? They were cruel. Ash looked at Myra, the hair on her lip, dark of course, against Myra's olive skin, exotic in her younger days and very white birth. It wasn't at a place. Why couldn't a woman embrace the change? Why should she conform? Thinking again about the injunction about beards, though, she wondered, is Mum hiding anything? Well, no. It's the menopause, women of a certain age. Heritage, a voice chirps. Where did that come from? But that's not Benazir, who could, as Myra gesticulated, setting her tea alight, be a Vogue cover model. Just look at the silks she wears, how she speaks, commands. Ash herself didn't see Bhutto as a role model, but it was important to Myra. Grace, elegance. The brown version of Grace Kelly? A kind of royalty? Okay, so that's how it begins. And I can't stay here for much longer because I'm getting bitten by mosquitoes. I love this park. All sorts of insects too. And I got bitten on my foot as well. They're such opportunists. But anyway, I wanted to give you a bit of a glance or insight into the process of starting to write short stories. And I feel the need to do this because I wrote that on a headache, actually. Besides wanting to get bitten by mosquitoes, and experience bodily pain, I do want to get into the interiority of my characters' lives, what drives them, what fantasies they have, what separations, what disappointments, what visions of the politics of family and diaspora and idealization. All those sorts of things really interest me, and also how errant desires can lead us astray. So there you go.